art of the deal relies on how you negotiate. Every time you enter into a new arrangement with somebody else, you'll be required to negotiate some kind of an agreement. For anyone who isn't a born negotiator, a good place you can turn for help is a lawyer.
What new people in business have to understand is that negotiation is really just relationship management. Every time you enter into a relationship with someone else, whether it's a supplier, an employee, labor group, landlord, there's a contract or a concept that has to be resolved. It doesn't mean that everything you negotiate is big time. Sometimes they're things of a minor nature, but the client should always think of the lawyer as a member of that negotiating team. The client can approach the lawyer and draw on the lawyer's experience and knowledge of either the industry or the legal concept, or even the lawyer's life's experience to assist the client in coming up with ideas or approaches to dealing with a particular relationship.
Negotiation is not taught in law school, but it's a lawyer's experience of dealing with these issues for clients that can make them a place to turn to for advice. Having a lawyer as part of your negotiating team doesn't mean they have to be at the table with you, but they can review or help draft any contracts that may be required. A good negotiator knows that these processes are about give and take, so both parties are satisfied. If an agreement is too one-sided, the other party probably won't consider any future agreements.
You have to understand what it is that the client truly needs to get out of the deal. Sometimes winning doesn't mean winning everything. Sometimes winning means striking a balance that will result in a good long-term relationship between a landlord and a tenant, or a buyer and a seller, or an employer and an employee. It's not a matter of getting the best deal. It's often a matter of getting a good, workable relationship that's profitable to both sides so that it can be further developed by your client. It means maintaining relationships. It doesn't mean scoring big each time.
Another important point to remember is that any agreement you enter into has to be right for you for both the short and long term. It's perfectly justified for any party to walk away if it's not the right deal.
Well, part of negotiating is trying to get your best reasonable position in the circumstance. But just because you enter into negotiations, you shouldn't feel compelled to complete a deal. Sometimes the positions of the respective parties are such that a deal is simply not achievable. Sometimes the needs of the parties don't mesh well. And so part of negotiation is determining whether or not your needs can reasonably be met. You shouldn't feel committed to a deal just because you enter into discussions. When you do enter into negotiations, you should be prepared to give a little at the same time that you want to take a little. You'll find that that often fosters a much better relationship, one of greater trust between the parties. It's when you have that kind of relationship that most deals follow through to completion without issue.
Whether a lawyer is representing you at the negotiating table or just offering backroom advice, it's nice to have someone who's just looking out for your interests. But the advice shouldn't end with your lawyer.
I think that a client has to understand that introducing a lawyer is not the end of the story. They should be introducing their accountant, their tax advisor, and any other business consultants that they feel can add value to the negotiation. That doesn't mean that all of us sit around the same table with the opposing party on the other side. It means that a client has to prepare for the negotiation, and that all of these other professionals can provide good ammunition for the client to take to the table.
Big Fish Video Production.